Good evening, members, ladies and gentlemen, officers, members of the public, speakers, and everybody that's listening somewhere up in the ether. Those of you not been here before, the facilities are south end of the foyer. I hear the introductions sometimes and they always say they're in the foyer. I worry about that. There's no expectation of a fire alarm this evening, so if we experience one, please leave through the designated marked exits and go very steadily. Don't use the lift. If you could ensure your phones are switched off, please. Part of my introduction this evening is a bit of a sad one, as we have lost Gary Bull this month. Gary was mayor at North Walsham from 2019 until he took his seat here in 2023, and he had to retire due to ill health last year. So I wonder if you could be upstanding and we'll have a minute's silence, please. Thank you very much. So I'm delighted that this year my charity is the North Norfolk Charitable Trust, the Norfolk Wheelie Boat, and doubly delighted that I've got Tom Harrison here, who's the principal of the trust, to explain how his team can put some smiles on faces even with those people in the most dire circumstances. And the healing properties of the North Norfolk coast are infamous, and we all take them for granted. So Tom, this is Tom Harrison, and Sean, who will answer any questions. Sean is helmsman and regularly takes the wheelie boat out. It's the one with the funny face, Tom.
Wrong icon. Okay, that's my show for the evening. Thank you very, very much indeed for having me here, and Sean. Thank you particularly to the chair for making us his chosen charity. So what I'm here to do is to tell you a little bit about, I've got about 10 minutes to tell you a little bit about what we do, why we do it, and why we hope that you will help us along the way in raising money for what we believe is a very, very valuable cause. So I'm going to start off with why we do it. Here we go, why we do it. This all sounds very obvious stuff, but sometimes it's worth just stepping back and thinking about it. Disability is any condition of body or mind that makes it difficult to be active and go out. That's kind of fairly straightforward. But what that does, it restricts huge cohorts of people from getting in touch with nature, getting into the environment, and what actually you know as well as anybody around here, I don't have to tell you, North Norfolk is absolutely stuffed full of environment and nature. And it is such a shame when we think there's something about 250,000 people come to Blakeney Harbour. Blakeney Harbour about 4 miles long, up to a couple of miles wide, depending on the state of the tide. A fantastic seal reserve. We've got more grey seals than anywhere. Terns, spoonbills, little egrets, white egrets, it goes on and on. I mean, it's a marvellous place to be. 250,000 people come. We think that there are something like 100,000 people who take the commercial ferries out to see the seals. The commercial ferries, not that they don't want to, but they can't. It's just not a practical proposition to get those boats adapted in a way that will allow wheelchairs, not just wheelchairs. Let's remember that there are people with lots of sticks and walking frames. There are people who with Parkinson's who can't walk very well. There are all of these sorts of things. And then there's the children who are disabled that have all sorts of conditions which make it very difficult for them. So access to nature releases endorphins. I think that is pretty much established. I don't think too many scientists and doctors would argue with that. And that's a feel-good hormone. And I've listed out a few of the sorts of things that the good hormones do. Generating self-confidence, strength, willpower, social interaction. So many people who are disabled just stuck in one corner. Circadian rhythms, exciting, creating pride and fulfillment. So all part of a full health and welfare agenda. Our boat, I know that was early in the morning because I took the picture myself. That was early in the spring, flying its way out when the harbour is empty that time of the year, on a training exercise, I have to say. The sorts of seals things that we look at, and by the way, on top right, I'm not going to talk a lot about that this evening, but that's a new lodge we've got, which is respite accommodation for people who live away, which is specially adapted for the disabled, so they can come here and find somewhere to stay. We've done that before. We've now got our own lodge to do that. The stats, so 180,000 boat trips for 180 individuals in 2024. 2025, our timetable is a bit over 100 trips, reaching, we hope, about 270 passengers. So a bit more detail about very specifically what we do. Could we have the next slide, Emma, please? Thank you. So there she is, rising up out of the water. And you can see what I mean by specially adapted. It's got sort of landing stage front to it. That drops down, and those who can't clamber into a commercial ferry can get on board that. And there we are, we see a cohort that have got mild disabilities. We very often will have whole families. So you'll get one disabled person, two disabled people, and you'll get their siblings, you'll get their mothers, their fathers, their children. That is a big part of using this slightly edgy, slightly exciting experience. You can see they're getting up on a plane there, and people get excited about that. They like it, and it gets them buzzing. But what it also gets is the whole family buzzing. And the elderly relative or the young child, they're all involved in it together. That makes it something that they remember for a very long time. So we're not just giving a good afternoon out to somebody in a wheelchair. What we are doing is bringing a whole family bonding exercise into play. So we reckon that these sorts of things, and we actually know, I don't reckon, we know, because people come back regularly year after year to refresh that experience. A bit more about what it is that people say about us. I'm not going to read them all out. Could we have the next slide, please? Here we are, bunch of pictures of happy customers, happy passengers. Yes, it does rain sometimes, and we'll go out in the rain. Actually, one of the great things about Blakeney Harbour is that both in terms of conditions brought about by strong winds and also more particularly strong winds, perhaps, we can find little corners to hide up in that mean that we can get out perhaps rather more frequently when the weather's a bit dodgy than you might think we can. We go all the way from Cly right the way out to Blakely Point. So here we go. Most wonderful experience. My parents spoke about how wonderful it was. We had a fabulous trip. Hazel has been wanting to do a seal trip, etc., etc. And you think, well, he picked all the good ones. To be honest with you, there are only good ones. I promise you. We haven't had anybody that says that was rubbish. I didn't like it. Never going again. So resources. That's the next slide. Thank you very much. We are very proud, I have to say, that we've got over 30 volunteers on this project. What do? They drive the boat, so skippers. What do? They're crew on the boat. What do? They meet and greet those passengers that are booked up. And what do when it's all over? They meet and greet them when they come back. So they find out where the car was and where the toilets are and all the sorts of things you can imagine. So we pretty much, I hope, got it covered. And we only employ 1.5 people. So 2/3 of our workforce is sitting next to me. Sean gets paid, not very much, he'll tell you, but I don't believe anything he said. And Karen, Sean, by the way, I should say, is ex-RNLI and ex-Border Force. So his knowledge of seamanship and of the coast here is phenomenal. He is the one who's instigated training. The training we do, he's driven us mad with training. And the training that we do is across the board. If it needs people to be trained for it, we've done it. Rather than go through the whole list. Karen came to us from Help for Heroes, and she's fundraiser. She's on part-time. I think that's enough said about that. Let's whiz on to very specifically what we're talking about. It's your charity of the year. And whatever we can do, working together to make this, the Chairs, spectacular charity and spectacularly useful for us, we will do. So any ideas you've got, anything you want organised, 30 volunteers plus, would love to get involved. And we really, really want to make this work. Actually, we just thought, standing out in the foyer, waiting to come in, that this, which is our flyer, which we thought some will give them to Kay later on. We should endorse that with North Norfolk District Council. Chairs Charity of the Year. We must say that. It's good for you and it's good for us. And what it will do, not should do, what it will do is mean that we end up with more money in the kitty to do exactly what it is that I've, in a bit of a rush, tried to explain to you this evening. It's all about getting those endorphins flowing, getting families throwing their arms around each other, giving each other big hugs and big smiles. And that means that we've done some good. So that's me finished. If we have the last slide just up there. We've got a few minutes, I think, have we, for any questions? Sean's much more likely to be able to have the answers than I am. So any questions that you might have, we'll gladly take.
Has anybody got any questions for Tom? You can now see why this is my charity for the year. I've done some meeting and greeting. I was in the past, not recently. I was there last Thursday to have a look.
You were, thank you.
And I understand there was a gentleman that you took out from Halsey House recently.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little about that?
There was indeed, yes.
Go on.
So last week, Tom's already mentioned I'm ex-RNLI, but one of the ex-crew at Cromer, which some of you may be familiar with, everyone Luckin, was Ted. I got to hear that he was coming on the trip. There was a late change as to who was going to be joining us that day from Halsey House. And I've known Ted for a number of years, but I thought how marvellous it would be to get him out on the boat and then surprise him and say, would you like to actually drive it, Ted? And at 96 years old, he drove about 2/3 of the hour and 20-minute trip. A big smile on his face. The carers from Halsey House were saying how wonderful it was to see him on the helm, but also possibly to see a little bit of what he was doing in his younger days. And he's a link back to Henry Volk's time. So that was fantastic, but that's one of many. We do try and get as many as possible behind the helm. You get a 10-year-old boy in a wheelchair, and we managed to get him behind the helm, have a drive, 2 months a day a week. The stories get told for a long time after. So yeah, thank you, Peter, for supporting us. If there's any other questions, only too happy to answer.
Yes,
Keep
John.
those endorphins flowing.
I don't have a question, just a comment in support of what you're doing. I'm Forces Champion on the council. I came out in the early days and met you when you was getting this going. Yes, came over and saw you. And I know that you've taken veterans out on trips as well, groups of veterans. So I thank you for that. And it is great work that you do. And yes, I've not heard a bad story. You're absolutely right. So I hope we can all find things to do to support you, because it supports so many different communities. So thank you. And I look forward to doing what we can to support you through the year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Don. We'll perhaps try and get the wheelie boat outside to remind everybody that they're going to need to put their hands in their pockets as the air goes on. So we'll do that. Right, we'll move on. Apologies for absence, Emma, please.
I've received apologies from councillors Beatty, Bayes, Housden and Patterson. Don't know if there are any others.
Thank you very much. So we're on to item 3, which is the minutes of our meeting, last meeting. Have we all read them, looked through them? Have we got any changes that we need to make? Do I need to go through them? I certainly can if you'd like me to. Page 1, is there any changes? 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Shouldn't start at this, should I? 12, 13. 14, 15, nothing. 16, 17. 18, 19, 20, 21 and 22. So is it your wish that I sign these as a true and correct record? No other proposal, please. Councillor Fredericks, Councillor Toy. Brilliant, thank you very much.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I am actually listed as attending, but I don't think I did. So at least I can't remember it, but that might be me.
Well,
That might be me, not you. So
Councillor Penfold, that's a problem that as you get older, you'll find you have more of.
yeah, I am finding that. So I mean, I would have loved to attend it if you want to keep me on the list, but I think I did send my apologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, we'll go on to item 4, which is to receive declarations of interests from members if we have any. None? Jolly good. Item 5, items of urgent business. And there are none. So we go on to Chairman's communications. Oh dear. My first engagement as chairman was as a guest of the Crowman and Sheringham Operatic Society for the production of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And yes, I won the golden ticket. This was a really vibrant show, fast moving, with a brilliant cast, all of whom contributed to the glories of the night. I did reflect that it was almost 60 years since I last had attended a Cromer and Sheringham Operatic Society do. I think it was Carousel, and there was none of the members that could remember it at all. Which, but oh, hello, I'm switched off. The only thing I can say, it won't be as long as that before I go next time. There's a picture of Councillor Lee. Oh, there's me at Kings Lynn and the West Norfolk Civic Service. And it was held on the 8th of June. On the left, can you see our county chairman being harangued by a young Liberal? Tom, I've got that photograph. I've got that picture, Tom. I'll send it to you. The mayoral service contained all the ceremony that the near 1,000-year-old organisation deserved, and I couldn't resist that photograph. It was interesting after the service that the Deputy Lord Lieutenant mentioned that notwithstanding devolution, the permission of Kings Lynn Mayor should remain, which I thought was a bit strange, but never mind. The next thing was the High Sheriff's Garden Party at Elsing Hall on the 20th of June. High Sheriff Patrick Lyons announced his charity as the Citizens Advice Bureau, and he spoke highly of the work of our magistrates and those dealing with law and order. While the great and the good tucked into canapes and gathered around the Prosecco tent, I met a couple of old reprobates, and no, that wasn't Tom and Vincent that I did speak to. It was Nicky King, of course, husband of our own Sandra King, who just happens to be coxswain of the RNLI at Wells, and Chris Hardy, who's lifeboat operations manager. And they were wondering if they could navigate to a pub on the way home, I think. And Northrop's Armed Forces Day, and the morning started with the muster of Royal British Legion colours. And the highlight was the hard-working Lorna Fish receiving the Royal British Legion Meritorious Service Award, which was presented by Major General Sir William Cubitt. If you haven't been, it's really good to go. Lots of different stands, everything from tombola to displays of British rifles to artifacts rescued from the planes that crashed near Holt in the 60s, air cadets, and one man's collection of World War I and II uniforms and kit. It's well worth visiting. Put it in your diary for next year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this was my first engagement as Vice Chairman of the Council. Popped over to Wisbech. They gave me plenty of sandwiches and plenty of cake, so I left a very happy boy indeed. But no, it was a really interesting day, actually. You can see me there with my hard hat on. Behind me there are all these tunnels that go where the old castle used to stand, the old Norman castle. That was great, you know. Great for me, not great for the people who were once locked up there. But yeah, really interesting day. Thank you to the Mayor of Wisbech for hosting us.
Thank you, Matthew, for venturing out into Wisbech for me. And lastly, the opening of the 3G pitch at the Cromer Academy. And this is going to be a brilliant facility for both the school and the wider community. I think it was first built in something like 1994 and it was last updated in 2012. So it was certainly well needed. In my mind, the ball was racing up into that top right-hand corner, but as it was, it sort of dribbled quietly towards the goal where it was thrown back at me. No, I didn't smash a window. So that was all my attendances. And that's the end of my communications. Thank you very much. Right, we're on to public statements. Oh, leaders announcement. Sorry, I've skipped. Sorry, Tim.
No problem at all. Thank you, Chairman. I first also wish to acknowledge the passing of our friend and former colleague, former councillor Gary Bull. Gary was taken from us far too soon here at North Norfolk District Council and had a huge amount more he would have contributed to us were it not for his health. And he was certainly better known for his outstanding contribution to North Walsham, of course, and I sadly didn't get to work with him there, as so many did. But I did note his friendly but authoritative way of chairing a meeting. So many of us don't necessarily have one of those attributes or both of those attributes in that position. It did immediately occur to me he would be a good chairman, and you may recall he served as the Standards Committee chairman as a newly elected councillor, so not a task envied by many. You always knew where you stood with Gary, whether in this setting or indeed with a pint at the pub. So we miss him, but his family and friends can be immensely proud of his work and achievements in his community. To more organisational matters, I'm pleased to acknowledge the annual accounts have now been published, and I thank all staff who have contributed to this significant work. I believe the process gets more and more complex every year in terms of process and requirements, and I think for the majority of us not closely involved, we're rather grateful of the fact. On the local plan, current work revolves around agreeing modifications and towards the upcoming 6-week consultation ahead of sign-off. I'm afraid I don't have the date imprinted in my mind. Perhaps you can say that later on. Oh,
That's the 4th of August until the 15th of September, I believe.
thank you, Councillor Brown. And in terms of local government reorganisation, work continues by the majority of councils, backed by the majority of elected councillors and Norfolk MPs, to model the 3 unitary model with intensive thematic work across the breadth of council services and a significant commitment of time. We are grateful to parish and town councils who intended to engage with our most recent sessions in Fakenham, which I think has had a significant impact, and in Munsley, where I was also joined by my Conservative counterpart from Great Yarmouth, but thoroughly useful and well received. And we'll be following up with parish councils again in the autumn following the submission in September. Although we will have numerous other engagement activity across the county to reach residents and businesses as well. Across the council, various other achievements have occurred over the last month, including one which I was going to mention, the 3G pitch, of course, in the Suffield Park ward, which is a significant achievement in the current context. The Lees play area at Sheringham North has now been reopened and will be greatly enjoyed by both residents and visitors, and many of them. And we've recently marked the completion of the Munsley Coastal Defence Works. And at the last meeting, we spoke of regaining blue flags, but we are delighted that due to the commitment of officers and many volunteers with the Muddy Boots Brigade, we have retained our green flags at Sudler's Wood, Pretty Corner and Holt Country Park as well. As the last meeting before the recognised summer holidays, not that you really get them as councillors as such. Well, I first of all must unfortunately thank members for their responses to various incidents of flooding in recent days. But beyond that, I wanted to encourage members to get out and see again what our own district has to offer. And I believe the mighty Worsted is having its festival this weekend, isn't it? And I think the North Norfolk Railway are holding a vintage festival of transport too. I recently attended the Thurstwood Gala earlier in the month, and their new adventure playground really is something to behold. It will be a fantastic achievement. I think it is in even its current unfinished state, and that will be such a good thing for the west of the district, certainly. But many other events throughout the summer, of course, including the carnivals, many other voluntary commitments and hours put into those. So there's no real reason to go away anywhere. And the signs are that we're doing very well in terms of visitor numbers to the district this year, with indicators around car parking and certainly Councillor Ringer's workload in terms of visitor pressures. So we've also seen recently the highest ever collection of non-domestic rates, and a cause célèbre for many perhaps, but indicating the health of many businesses despite the significant challenges on a national level. But do go and support your local businesses this summer as well. And not the neatest segue perhaps into banking. But regardless, we are pleased to have recently learned of the further 2 designations for banking hubs, North Walsham and Cromer since June. We've also managed to have some discussions on the evolution of hub services and securing the locations for the new branches. And I do also have a meeting with Nationwide to discuss the future of services in Sheringham and Fakenham. So we look forward to reporting more in the committee cycle soon. But things really are progressing quite fast compared to many other areas across the country in that space. We obviously want to keep you informed. I appreciate it's an issue of ongoing concern for many, but it is encouraging to see nonetheless. So thank you for listening to me for a few minutes. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Yes, we're now on to public questions and statements. And I'd like to invite Melanie Harris or Claire, I'm not sure who's going first, up to the microphone. You have 3 minutes each.
Hi, I'm Melanie Harris. I'm one of the co-founders of Shop Fakenham, and with Claire. It started back in autumn last year, so we're quite a new organisation. We're kind of the new retail and trade organisation for Fakenham. We haven't had a Chamber of Trade now for some number of years. Our aims are to collaborate to boost local trade, to share ideas and resources, and to promote the town centre as a vibrant leisure and retail destination. So far, we've had quite a lot of achievements in terms of communications channels we've set up. We've collaborated with lots of local groups, including our district councils, the town council, our events committee, Active Fakenham, and Fakenham Area Partnership. We've also secured funds from the Chamber of Trade, which no longer exists recently. We have social media channels, and we've had a logo created and lots of positive PR in the local press. One of the other things we've managed to achieve is setting up and having a petition for one of the buildings in Fakenham, which is what we're here to speak about today, and Claire's going to go on to talk about that. Just before she does, I just wanted to let you know that our future plans and things that we're trying to achieve over the next 12 months or so are to reinstate the Saturday food market for Fakenham. We think this will increase footfall and add some vibrancy to the town for visitors and locals. We're also looking to have a town website. Believe it or not, Fakenham does not have its own town website. We've received some Go Digital support for that. And so we're going to get that underway soon, where we can have events listings and directories and information about what's going on in Fakenham. I know I've probably not done my 3 minutes, but we're really here to talk about the petition for 9 Norwich Street. So I'm going to hand over to Claire to talk about that.
Hello, I'm Claire Howard. I'm a local independent retailer in Fakenham and co-founder of Shop Fakenham, and I'm going to talk about 9 Norwich Street. I'm representing the over 2,000 people who have signed our petition, all here, calling for urgent action on the eyesore that 9 Norwich Street has become in the town. 2,000 people is around a quarter of the population of Fakenham, and that includes residents, visitors, local businesses. The petition has been available in every independent retailer in the town since February. It's sparked countless conversations with them, a real sense of frustration that people feel nothing is happening and that Fakenham is stuck in a rut. And yet we think the truth is very different to that. We think that Fakenham is full of energy and effort. People come into the town for the Thursday market, for the variety of brilliant independent retailers, and for lots of practical things to do. We've got a lot of supermarkets, we've still got a post office, we've got building society, other services. We've got parking that's easy. We've got a bus network that actually does connect all of our villages. And we're a working town. We're a town that's got a growing heart. And we're proud, very proud, to be part of the Norfolk High Streets Matter pilot scheme, So we've got quite a few retailers in Fakenham taking that very seriously, and we're working really hard to make the town centre inviting and vibrant again. But the building is holding us back. It's a constant reminder of delay, missed opportunity. 9 Norwich Street, if you don't know it, it's quite a striking Victorian building. It's an arcade. It's one of the last arcades in Norfolk. And Fakenham is a town that's rich with Victorian buildings, Georgian buildings, and it feels heartbreaking to see this one still imprisoned in its scaffolding. It was declared unsafe in 2019, and the urgent works order followed in 2022. But since then, there's been no visible progress. The scaffolding keeps blocking the pavement. The building is still an eyesore, and it's one of the first things that you see when you come into town. All the while, though, retailers and members of the public tell us the same thing. It could be a really important commercial asset. It could house more independent shops. We could have pop-ups in there. There could be a real sense of new possibility. So we're not asking for the impossible, but we are asking for some communication, some visible and urgent action, and a way forward as quickly as possible, because we think that Fakenham is moving. We just need to get the building to move with us. The community is doing its part, and we'd like to see the district council telling us how they're moving their part forwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adams.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for the work that you are doing, and I also recognise Fakenham as a very vibrant town. My family enjoy our regular visits, in fact. I appreciate that the progress that is being made is not visible. We, of course, don't own the property, so that's of course the starting point with this difficult issue. We are continuing to take action in respect of the property, but I struggle to play our cards openly in respect of that because it's of a legal nature, and there are actions ongoing presently, even this week. But of course, they won't be visibly recognised. There are, of course, a number of individuals involved, including victims of the circumstances, and we can't really openly discuss many of the matters in a public setting. I'm happy to meet with you in private at some point in due course, and I welcome that. And I'm sure John, portfolio holder for economic growth, would also welcome the opportunity to meet with you and explore other ways we can support the organisation and the other work that it's doing. The powers we do have, given by primary legislation by the government, don't meet public expectations in respect of actions on such buildings, and we're really aware of that, but we have to work within the constraints of those powers, whether we like it or not. And I'm sure, you know, lots of people expect we can sort of go in and sort of start interfering with building, doing work to it. It's just obviously not the case. It's a sequential process, lots of hoops to jump through. And the balance really is in favour of the private landowner in terms of interventions that we can take, and the legislation that does exist, frankly, I think is very outdated. Lots of incorrect tools for the job. But we are chipping away at those issues, and as I say, quite a lot of work is ongoing at the moment, involving several teams of the council. We're not alone actually in facing these issues. So there are fairly high-profile examples. For instance, Dereham, long-standing former restaurant in that location. There's been some coverage about a long-standing issue in Great Yarmouth recently. We do have less, I suppose, than many other local authority areas, but this is an issue everywhere. And I've always been of the opinion that the national government should give us more powers to deal with these issues more quickly, because it's very frustrating. And I appreciate the issues and the impact it has on the perception of a town. So we're absolutely keen to continue to work towards it, but I can't promise it will be any time immediately that we'll see a visible result. We can't take down the scaffolding. That's something we would want to try and achieve as well. But there's a structural issue there in terms of the scaffolding. But we're very pleased, obviously, with the work that and the understanding that this needs to move on. And that's reflected, of course, in the petition response, and we're glad to receive that, and we'll obviously process that and have another discussion about how we can do that. But I do think perhaps a meeting between us might be a good thing to do.
That would be really key. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillor. So, councillor Tory, would you like to just speak about the more joyous part of that?
Yeah, no, I'm delighted that actually that things are going so well in Fakenham. I came a couple of years ago when we had the Norwich Chamber, didn't they, put on a meeting, which I think you were there. And I know that, Claire, we've got some video, haven't we, from where we've worked with you before. So, yeah, and that you're engaged with the High Streets Matter. So, and clearly it is a vibrant town. We know that, in terms of empty shops and that, there's very little there. Norfolk generally does well. And I know Fakenham's working well. And I understand your concerns, which I think the leaders explained. You're well in touch with my team, but I'm also happy to come along and work with you. And yeah, we want to continue to make it grow. I love the fact that you've doing some experiential stuff, which I think is important for high streets now, and that you've mentioned the history, because I think there's an opportunity for a history trail in Fakenham, but that's for Fakenham to decide, not me. It's just an outside view. But thank you for bringing it to us, and thank you for engaging, because it's important that we get this feedback and that we have these conversations. So thanks very much for your time this evening.
Yes, thank you very much. So I think it's back to you, councillor Adams, for appointments to committees, subcommittees and working parties.
Thank you, Chairman. So, yes, there are a few committee changes to both agree and to note. So, first of all, I will be proposing that we replace Councillor Sol Penfold as Vice Chair of Obion Scrutiny Committee with Councillor Jill Boyle, and Councillor Andrew Fletcher to replace Councillor Jill Boyle as Vice Chair of the Governance, Risk and Audit Committee. And secondly, in terms of outside body appointments, we wish to add Visit Norfolk to the list of approved outside bodies and appoint Councillors Withington and Lucy Shires as representatives, with Councillor Withington acting as Chair of the Visit Norfolk Board. And lastly, to appoint Councillor Sarah Butikofer as the main representative on the Police and Crime Panel and Norfolk Community Safety Panel Partnership Scrutiny Sub-Panel. Is that the right word? Yeah. And with Councillor Toy as the substitute. So 4 changes there.
Thank you very much, councillor. Councillor Cushing, have you anything?
No, nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
And councillor Padgett, no? Nothing. Thank you. Right, we're on to portfolio reports, and I should just remind you of the fact that there's only half an hour for this whole debate. So you get 1 question each and a follow-up. If we don't meet the half an hour, then I might accept some other questions. Have we got any updates? Councillor Fredericks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, on my portfolio holding report, which is on page 45 of the pack, there is a paragraph that says between the 1st and 30th of June 2025, 47 main duties decisions have been taken, with the following decisions being reached. So there's 1, not homeless, 10 homeless, no priority need, 3 homeless priority need and intentional homelessness. The next line should read 33 homeless and priority need unintentional homelessness. Also, there's a meeting on my meetings list that I didn't attend, which was the Joint Staff Consultative Committee, which was in my diary but didn't happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I won't make you repeat that. Councillor Blathwaite.
I'm afraid there's an errant cross on my appointments. The first cross on my appointments is I must have sat on the keyboard. I apologise. It was for the Broads Authority, not NNDC.
And councillor Withington.
Thank you. It's just an update really that wasn't in it, and I thought people would like to know that we opened the Lees Play Park yesterday afternoon on the Esplanade in Sheringham. It's been a challenging project, but we've got there, and it opened late afternoon, and by 5:30 last night it was absolutely full of children. So that was wonderful to see. And the second one is to ask you all to plug the Pretty Corner Woodland Fair, which is taking place under the Countryside and Leisure team on the 29th of July. So there's lots of Facebook out there about it and things, if you could all share it, because it's a great day to get people out and an opportunity for children on holiday to connect with nature and families to have a very reasonably priced day out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillor Withington. Right, do we have questions, please, for the portfolio holders? Keep your hands up because I'm a bit slow. Oh, Leith. Oil. The water. All right, I think I got you down for the holiday. Was there somebody else? There's a question. Anybody I've missed? I've got councillor Boyle and councillor Penfold. Have I missed anybody, I wonder? Right, we'll go, the first one I saw was councillor MacDonald, so we'll go to councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I ask councillor Varley about any updates with the Make My House Green initiative, please?
Thank you, councillor, for your question. It's a very good question. This partnership with Make My House Green went live in mid-March. In short, Mr. Chairman, this has been very successful thus far. Engagement with the company has been encouraging, and this partnership was simply to spread the word about solar PV and get people started on their journey. Now, this council has undertaken a net zero project in Stalham, and I'm sure the local members will concur with me that one of the biggest points which was raised time and time again by the community was not having sufficient or relevant information and not knowing where to start, not having that good solid starting point. Now, this partnership gives them that start. They obviously don't need to progress with Make My House Green. And we do, of course, Mr. Chairman, advise that anyone seeking a quote ascertain free quotes, even if they are going with Make My House Green. And we have all the relevant information on our new webpage, just plugging that for you. Now, we have actually had a few households already who have partook in this scheme, and they've had their solar panels installed. Now, you will see in my recent report the figures in there. However, Mr. Chairman, I need to state that actually this information is inaccurate because the figures have actually increased now. So I will just read those out to you. Based on all the installations we've had thus far, the carbon savings is 2,703 kgs of carbon. Now, the financial saving is quite large as well. That is £3,285.87. So that's a huge reduction there, a huge saving. Yeah, I'm really proud of this, Mr. Chairman. And like I say, it's really important that we have schemes like this. It ensures that we continue to stay committed to our corporate objectives and ensure that we are tackling climate change and encouraging good net zero practices. I've said many, many times now, but 99% of overall emissions in North Norfolk are actually classed as district-wide emissions, so i.e. Not in the council's gift to change. So therefore, as a council, Mr. Chairman, we must influence, we must signpost and come up with good partnerships and schemes like this. I think I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chairman, but in short, very, very successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Varley. I
Thank you.
thought you were taking over from Councillor Brown there for a second. Councillor MacDonald, have you anything else?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, Councillor Vickers.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, can I just say how sorry I was to hear about the passing of your colleague Gary Bull. I worked with him for a short time on the homelessness task and finish group. And in that short time, he made such a valuable contribution. He was a charming and intelligent man. But my condolences to his friends and family. My question is for Councillor Adams. Tonight you and Councillor Tory have acknowledged that Fakenham has a great community spirit and is a fantastic place to live, shop and do business. It also provides a hub for the surrounding rural villages. So this evening you've heard a heartfelt plea in the form of a petition from many of the ordinary hard-working people of Fakenham who want their community, their shops and their town to thrive. 9 Norwich Street is not only a damper on the spirit of Fakenham, but in my view, the scaffolding erected by this council presents a public road safety issue. We've heard promises from you both in the press and in this chamber that you want a resolution, and I have confidence that you actually do. You said this evening that there were hoops to jump through, and I think we need to stop.
Can we get to a question, please, Councillor Vickers?
If you permit me, Chairman, I'm getting there. So, Councillor Adams, I'd like your assurance that this can is not going to be kicked down the road, but until this council is dissolved, and that you'll make sure that there's a clear plan of action, transparent to members, that members are aware of that plan, and that it's actioned promptly. Thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, just in respect of one thing you said, we're not highways authority. So in respect of issues over obstruction, you will have to take that to the county council. I entirely accept that it is an obstructed footway, but I have to refer you back to the issues that how I responded to the public question. We can't describe a lot of the thinking in the process here publicly. It is lots of legal questions here. We just cannot play those cards publicly. That would be entirely irresponsible to do so, and could damage the progress towards the end result that we all want. We all want to get there. In terms of, I suppose, my commitment to it, we've answered many questions about this before. I do want to see it resolved. I can't commit to that because of those legal obstacles that exist. It's not our property. So just obviously always remember that as a starting point. It's not property that is in our control. We cannot access it or do work to it, and that's in exceptional circumstances without the permission of the landowner. That said, work is continuing, and as I said during the public session, involving several departments of the council to try and move forward. It will still take some time, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Have you a follow-up question, Councillor Vickers?
I realise, Councillor Adams, that the legal questions cannot be aired in a public forum, but I think that you could suggest other forums, private forums where we could, or closed forums where we could discuss this. I feel that there isn't a lot of transparency around this issue, and that Fakenham councillors are not really informed on this.
Sorry, that's nonsense, Councillor Vickers. You have been involved in meetings with officers on several occasions before. I think you're appraised of the position up until recently. I don't know if you're appraised up to the position now, but we have sought to involve you in those discussions. We cannot give all sorts of details about this case because there are individuals involved, and it's their private business. And there are legal matters, so it would be irresponsible to distribute that in any sort of fashion. But repeat what I said, we are still working towards this, and authorities across the country are grappling with the same issues, going through the same process, jumping through the hoops sequentially to try and reach similar outcomes that we also desire here, which is for the footway obviously to be open in the building, to be in use. Understand entirely the perceptions. Just to remind members, there was once a building like this in Cromer, Balcony House on bottom of Mount Street. Similar sort of issue actually with the scaffolding covering the road. Thankfully, though, not the issues in terms of ownership that exist with this one. So I know very much what it's like. Thank you.
I'll go to Councillor Puncher.
Thank you, Chair. I'm afraid, Councillor Adams, you are incorrect. As a local member, I've not been appraised of the situation. The last 3 meetings, I've raised the issues around this building and asked for officer responses, to which I've had no response. Thank you.
I'm not aware of any recent questions, but if you want a briefing, you're very welcome. I do believe that previous officer did offer that to local members at the time. In respect to the current position, you're welcome to receive a briefing in due course. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll move to Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question is to the leader, Councillor Adams. Leaving aside whether local government reform will result in 1, 2 or 3 unitaries, does the leader see any opportunities in the new world that will occur to achieve efficiencies and quality improvements in the delivery of services and democratic governance without increasing council tax? If so, can he explain in outline where they would be and what they would look like to residents and businesses? Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. I refer you back to, sorry, can we, everyone? Sorry, just other people speaking. Refer you back to the meeting in March, where I outlined my position on this matter. In fact, similarly to Bretken's position, don't agree with this model of local government reorganisation. I do believe there are a lot of false promises. And I do in fact feel it's probably moving the deck chairs into a smaller number of spaces or rooms. That's how I've always felt about it. I do see the opportunity in Norwich in terms of potential improvements in strategy and spend and realising changes there where it's underbounded. Don't see that same opportunity, sadly, for the rest of rural Norfolk. But in terms of savings, I suppose you could look to other areas of the country and see whether that's been promised and has it been delivered. And I don't believe it necessarily always has. And lots of conversations about this at the moment. I mean, where you've reduced the number of councils and potentially reduced the number of statutory staff and maybe reduce the number of buildings. Historically, it's taken a long time to achieve the savings envisaged, and often inflation and new cost burden factors, responsibilities of the council catch up in that elapsed time. So I am one of the people that are sceptical about any model of local government reorganisation achieving savings that translate into public service improvements. And I think what we still need to see from the government is a commitment towards public service improvements. And frankly, the signs haven't been good in terms of the government's commitment to rural areas. If we think of the changes to the rural subsidy, new homes bonus, and all those factors, and fundamentally, you know, we need to see public service improve. They're really under a lot of strain and pressure, and we've got a lot of problems in the system. So in terms of specifics and the result, I do have some skepticism. Of course, there will be savings through reductions in headcount in any event, and frankly through the reduction of councillors as well. That's also a reality, and all of those are realistic means of, I suppose, reducing the overall expenditure, and that goes for either model, as we know. But in the long term, I don't see it delivering savings that translate into public service improvements, at least under the current government strategy. Thank you.
Councillor Dixon, do you have a follow-up?
Only to say that I didn't actually mention the word savings. I mentioned the word efficiencies in particular, and they are two very distinct terms. But I will leave the matter rest at that point.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Leith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for Councillor Ringer, please. Could you tell me more about the film and flexible plastics trial, please?
Good evening. Yes, I'll be pleased to give you a little bit more information, supplement to what is in my portfolio report. One thing that all councillors will be aware of is the government's simpler recycling plans, and the one at the forefront of all of our minds will no doubt be food waste collection. But another element of this is the films and flexible plastics collection, which we will have to be undertaking from 2027. Films and flexible plastics are basically the plastics that say, please recycle with carrier bags in supermarkets. And as part of the Norfolk Waste Partnership, we will be trialling in one specific area the collection of these films in something called a survival bag. So you will be given a bag to put your bags in, put them in the top of your recycling, and they will be counted and taken away. And this is going on at a couple of select locations across the county. For Councillor Leith's benefit, one of the places in the county that will be doing this is North Walsham. So there will be one round in North Walsham that will be part of the county-wide scheme. There will be leaflets and information being distributed to residents in the weeks leading up to that, with full instructions on how to take part. And then at the end of the period, which will be running from September through into the middle of October, there'll be another leaflet will say thank you very much for taking part. And we look forward to seeing what the results from that are. Ultimately, the results will be used by the Norfolk Waste Partnership to feed into DEFRA, and possibly try and understand some of the costs that may be required for the investment into something called the mixed recycling facility, which is essentially where all of our recycling goes and is sorted into its various waste streams. Obviously, plastic films are not part of the normal setup at the moment at the mixed recycling facility, so it will be an opportunity not just for us in terms of collection, but for the mixed recycling facility in terms of how they will be separating that waste out. So thank you very much, and the ward members who are affected will be contacted by our officers over the coming weeks with a bit more information.
Councillor Leith, are you happy with that?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Our children are already nagging us to do that separate sorting. So it's great. Thank you.
Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Chair. My question's for Councillor Brown. Councillor Brown, on page 38 of your report, you mentioned the government's proposed reform of planning committees. If implemented, this would significantly reduce the influence of elected councillors, effectively shifting power to planning officers, which could prioritise development over community priorities. Please, can you confirm the response of this council?
Thank you, Councillor Porter, for your question. The government did issue a series of consultation documents, and the future composition and functioning of planning committees was actually one of those consultations, which we agreed in the planning service that we would respond to. I do believe that the response to the various preset questions by the government have been returned to MHCLG, and the actual narrative, or if you like, the details of the planning services response is on the planning website of the council. So I will actually email a copy of that to you so that we know what we're referring to, if that is assisting you. But I will say just generally that that we are not enamoured with the proposals from the government, because the local connection in determining planning applications is one of the basic democratic freedoms of this country. And I, for one, and the planning service and the council's opinion is that the government's attempt to interfere with it is wholly misplaced and will not make the difference that the government seem to think it will make to the timely processing of planning applications as a feature of their commitment to radically increase the number of properties during the course of this parliament, for which they have set the very well-known target of 1.5 million new properties. I hope that goes some way to answering your question.
Yes, thank you, councillor.
Are you happy, Councillor Order? Yes, thank you very much. We've got 10 minutes left. The cut-off, well, 9 minutes left. The cut-off time is 19:15. So, Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a question here for Councillor John Toy. I see in your report that discussions are being held on High Street and Town Centre support. Are you able to give us any early indication as to how well it is being received by the high streets and town centres? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Yeah, I mean, it's going really well. We're doing some great work with our county council partners. Great business going on. We've had, and I'm just desperately trying to find it, expressions of interest from Cromer, Holt, Stalham has had a few in, one from the town and one from Richardson's. We've had 2 from Holt. We've had some from Fakenham, and the local that's the Town Ambition programme, and also with the local market town initiative, we've had a further 9 expressions of interest. So it's going hugely well. A little disappointed I haven't heard anything from Wells yet, and I'd like to see a little bit more from North Walsham, you know, because we're on a very short time scale. We need to get this done. This funding's spent because we don't want it going back to government, and it needs to go this year whilst we've got the opportunity. So, yeah, thank you for the question, and I thank you for all the councillors that are engaging with that and bringing this forward so that we can make this happen for our towns. I've had it fed to me from our county partners that they see us, North Norfolk, as a flagship for this. We're doing really well. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy, Councillor Boyle. Thank you, Councillor Toyle. I will give Wells a nudge. I think they were one of the earliest towns to have a meeting with you, so I'm a bit disappointed in that. Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, Chair. I understand that this is Councillor Toy, John Toy. I understand a large percentage of our workforce is in part-time employment, and the median income is lower than in North Norfolk than the national. And so I'd be interested to hear what your plans are to bring new well-paid employment into North Norfolk. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, if you look at the place that I've been for meetings, recently we were at a hackathon in Great Yarmouth, where we're talking about new jobs in the energy industry. We've had visits by members of my team. I couldn't go, but one of my cabinet colleagues went to meet companies in Norwich that are doing high-tech training. I've been personally to visit the Norwich City Council and see the facilities there and see how we can work and support them. So we're doing all that we can to work with the other industries and the opportunities for the offshore industries and all the low carbon stuff that's coming our way. So we're doing all we can to make sure people are equipped and those opportunities are there. We engage with our county partners. We have our own North Norfolk Skills and Employment Forum where we bring people together. So there's a huge amount of work going on. in terms of any specifics, we can't do any more than that, but to make sure that those opportunities are generated by all the possible channels and that we doing all we can to gain access. So we're even getting discussions around educators coming to Norfolk rather than all the students travelling to wherever the education is. So there's a huge amount of work going on, and we are working hard to try and resolve that. We're aware there are issues. There'll always be the transport issues, which are again the leader, due to his other activities now. I now sit on Transport East, which I've always attended, but now that gives us a few more levers to bring that into the economic picture as well for North Norfolk, because that is something that needs addressing. But of course, that is a county issue, but it puts me in a place to deal with that. So hopefully that gives you some encouragement that we're working there. We can't clearly say that we will allow this to happen and that will get people better pay. Thank you.
Councillor Holiday, I would remind you, we've got 2 questions left.
Okay, any time frame for that then? Thank you very much.
That work is continuous and ongoing all the time. We're bringing it forward as it happens. It's these, as we move into new year, by talking to these organisations, we've actually got the education organisations talking to one another, so they're not producing the same course, that they're actually working, saying, you do this course, you do that course. So actually in the new educational year, I would like to hope that there will be changes.
Councillor Penfold and Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just like to start by endorsing the very kind comments from Councillor Adams and Councillor Vickers concerning Councillor Gary Bull. I knew Gary through my work as the county councillor for North Horsham West, and Gary was extremely hardworking on behalf of the people of North Horsham and will be sadly missed. So I'd like to send my condolences to his family and friends. Mr. Chairman, the leader mentioned that the mighty Worsted Festival is happening this weekend, which it is. So I'd like to encourage all members to attend. Please, if you do, you'll be guaranteed a very warm Worsted welcome.
Question, Mr. Penfold.
My question, thank you, Mr. Chairman, is to Councillor Withington. Would she agree with me that the Worsted Festival is probably Norfolk's finest day out?
Back to a moment with Councillor Taylor and Stalham, and were they the champion of events? I think it probably, Worsted Festival is an incredible event, and the fact that such a small community comes together to produce such a phenomenal event makes it even more amazing. But, I think this is part of the wealth of North Norfolk in that we have, the, amazing Sheringham 40 Festival. Have you hit 50,000 yet in Worsted?
It's 20,000 over the week.
I think I must move you on. That's where we pat ourselves on the back and we'll get very, very dead. Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following a conversation, this is for Councillor Adams, and following a conversation that we had prior to full council, have the Home Office informed you or the Chief Executive of any plans to house asylum seekers in Fakenham?
We'll hand that over to the Housing Portfolio Holder, Councillor Fredericks. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing up the subject of these vulnerable people that are fleeing from war-torn countries. The Council is aware of an increasing reporting nationally and in Norfolk about asylum seekers' accommodation. The government contracts a number of private sector organisations to secure such accommodation. To date, we have been advised of 8 properties in the district are being appraised for refugee and asylum seeker accommodation by the central government contractor. As of today, we do not believe any placements have been made into properties in the district. Separate to the above, under the previous government, the District Council has purchased 6 properties with the Local Authority Housing Fund monies as part of the National Afghan Housing Resettlement Programme. To date, we've had no nominations into these properties by qualifying households, and we therefore use these homes as permitted by government as temporary accommodation for local households in housing needs. Again, these are extremely vulnerable people, and they're just like us. and we welcomed refugees from Ukraine, and we upheld them and protected them and supported them. This is no different. They are normal people. They bring skills to this country. And I hope that this district council will bear no malice or prejudice against those vulnerable people. I welcome any questions from anyone, any members that want to come forward and talk to me about this. But I am ashamed. I'm deeply ashamed of the far right people at the moment who are classifying these vulnerable people as inconveniences. And I hope that you will join me. You will join me in saying this as well, that we will uphold our duty to protect vulnerable people fleeing from war-torn countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Councillor Cushing, and I must press you, we must finish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to hear that there are no plans to house any asylum seekers or illegal immigrants in Fakenham in the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Right, that's the end of portfolio questions. We will go on to recommendations from Cabinet. We'll take these agenda items as the 1, 2, 3 and 4. Councillor Fredericks, I believe that's you. Oh, Councillor Shires, beg your pardon. I'm still being moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to suggest that as each of my reports was seen by a different committee, that I would invite the chair of the committee to speak on the recommendations after I propose each report, if you're content with that. Super. So we will, before I really get onto that, I just want to thank colleagues in the room for their kind words, which I'm sure that Gary Bull's family will receive warmly. As everybody said, Gary was a huge part of North Walsham, and his humour will most definitely be missed. So again, thank you to colleagues in the room there. I'll begin with the outturn report. I'm really sorry to those who have heard this and will be hearing this for the third time, looking over at Councillor Cushing, who really will be hearing this for the third time. So before we look at the year-end results, I just want to begin by highlighting a significant improvement that we made in our financial management last year. We changed the way that we monitor our budget, and instead of relying on the snapshots at a fixed point in time, we moved to a model where we projected the year-end position every time we monitored performance. And at this point, it would be poor of me to not acknowledge the work that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee did alongside me, and have continued to do in monitoring our budget. Just a nod to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, budget monitoring for this current financial year begins in September. This proactive approach gave us a much clearer visibility, earlier warnings and better control over our outcomes, and it allowed us to act decisively when it truly mattered and not after the fact. And I believe this change is a key reason why we're able to report such a strong and favourable financial position today. At period 4, and I've checked my maths, we were forecasting a deficit of just over £1 million, and through a combination of sound financial planning, cost control and the relentless efforts of staff across this council, we've closed the year with a general fund surplus of just over 622,000. That is every single member of this council, not just the finance team. That is officers, frontline services doing their bit across the board. So a huge thank you to the staff of this council for the work they did to rise into that challenge. And that challenge represents a positive swing of just over 1.6 million. And that's everything that everybody here in this room and in this council should be really, really proud of. The surplus is underpinned by just over 3 million underspend across service areas. But some of the standout figures that we have in getting us to this position were the employee-related costs and spend of 1.6 million, primarily through vacancy management and turnover. That question was asked at Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and a full and thorough answer was given as to how we got to that position by Officer Hems. Supplies and services were tightly controlled, leading to just short of an £800,000 underspend. And we also generated just over 2 million in additional income with strong performance in planning, parking and housing related grants. All of this was achieved without compromising core service delivery. But behind these numbers are real people who really have done more with a little less. Despite recruitment challenges across the council, we have continued to deliver services, maintain standards and adapt to challenging and changing demands. And this outcome not only reflects our financial discipline, but also the professionalism and resilience of our staff. We had originally budgeted to draw 4.6 million from reserves, but thanks to the in-year surplus, we only required 2.1 million. And as a result, our general reserve stands at just over 2.8 million, comfortably above the minimum recommended level of 2.1. We retain 24.2 million in earmarked reserves, ensuring we're well equipped to manage future pressures. As we know, we have been hoping for a multi-year settlement and a more favourable outlook on local government from the current government here. And as much as they tell us that they value local government, we're not seeing that currently in the face of financial pressures and, of course, LGR. But when we look towards the next financial year, the reserves that we have protected will also protect our long-term sustainability. The picture for the next financial year is ever changing, but I have met with Officer King to begin our budget setting process already for 26-27. As much as you hope there will be an end to it, unfortunately, you will hear a lot about budgets in varying capacities from me. Despite financial pressures, we've continued to invest in our communities. We have delivered over 25 million capital projects, including coastal protection, solar panel installations at the Victory Leisure Centre, investment in accessible and sustainable public conveniences, and a nod to my colleague, Councillor Fredericks, in what we have done for meeting our housing need. We have carried over some capital slippage, and that is in the papers to ensure continuity of delivery, and the new projects approved in this report hopefully, will have been for the eco-learning space to Holt Country Park, which is grant funded, the additional needed for the new play area, which has been opened in Sheringham. And this shows that we're not only balancing bucks, but we're investing in the future of North Norfolk. And as much as I have heard that we should be slowing down our investment, North Norfolk isn't going anywhere in the face of local government reorganisation. Yes, we did have to make some difficult choices in balancing the budget year that we're sitting in, and these are never easy decisions, but this report shows that the choices that we made previously were effective. We maintained service delivery, reduced our reliance on reserved, and preserved our ability to invest. So in summary, we started the year forecasting a deficit, we ended with a surplus, we protected services, we delivered major projects, and we strengthened our reserves. None of this happened by accident. It happened because of sound governance, improved oversight, and the outstanding work of our staff and finance team. So let's build on this momentum in the year ahead with clarity, discipline, and shared purpose. That's the end of my introduction. I would just like to mention that on page 94 of the report under 3.1, Councillor Cushing, when he viewed this report, pointed out an error in the second column, I believe, where the total reads 26,000. It should be 36,000. We didn't get that changed in time, Councillor Cushing. My apologies. But at both Cabinet and the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, if members can just turn to page 99 of the report, there is a change to the recommendations that myself, seconded by Councillor Ringer, would like to make. And that is where the budget that was underspent for the purchase of bins under 5.6A. We would like to ring fence this to reserve to offset the lack of money the government gave us to purchase food waste caddies. So if council are minded, I would just like to add in the recommendation to the recommendations that went before Cabinet and Overview and Scrutiny Committee.
Can I check, is that an amendment or an additional recommendation?
It's an additional recommendation, but it's amendment to the, it could be looked at as an amendment because there's the, let me just check. No, because the slippage isn't mentioned in that. I think it's just an additional recommendation.
So that's an additional recommendation to be considered when we're at the vote and seconded by Councillor Ringer.
It'll be additional recommendation N, if that helps.
Can I just go to Councillor Holiday before the questions to as ONS Chair?
Thank you, Chair. Will we resolve to recommend that the following, which was A to M, because we didn't actually agree the N, but that's the rest were put forward for recommendation.
Right, that's as they are.
They are
With the addition that's been okay. Are there any questions? Councillor Cushing, Councillor Porter, and Councillor Holiday. We'll go to Councillor Cushing first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, as Councillor Shah says, yes, I have heard this 3 times, so it's probably only fair that she hears from me twice in terms of that. I'm going to keep my comments relatively brief. I mean, clearly it is good news that we do now have a surplus of just over 600,000 being reported for the end of last year. But as I highlighted in Overview and Scrutiny, when we came to do the October budget meeting, we were at the time forecasting a £1 million deficit. Really of great concern to me is if you go to page 90 and look at table A there, looking at some of the discrepancies between what we understood the position to be back in April, now back in February. Now back in February, those estimates were based on about 8 or 9 months of actual figures, plus about 3 or 4 months of estimates. But if we look at that, we see that in terms of employee costs, the top line, we were forecasting 16.6 million, would actually turn out to be just shy of 15 million, so a £1.6 million discrepancy. And at the overall at the bottom, we've got net service costs there, a variance of from 23.6 million to just under 19 million, so it's 4.7. Now, and as one who spent hours poring over those reports, Councillor Shard, I mean, that really could have been submitted to the Booker Prize for fiction, couldn't it? So my concern, my point is this really, it's a serious point, is if we've got such a wide variance going forward, what confidence do you really have looking at any of the figures that you present to us in the future if we could have anything up to a £5 million variance in them?
So I started off talking about the way that we'd adjusted the way that we monitored, because I received criticism previously, quite rightly, that we ended up in an outturn of having a deficit, and why didn't we see that coming? So this year we've changed it so that we can see it coming and make adjustments in year. And I think we've done, as a whole team, the staff team and the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, I think we've done everything that we should have been doing to get us into the place that we needed to get. If you look under 3.4, there's a full explanation of the differences in the actual budget there and why we have arrived at that. I'm not sure whether or not you're asking me to control the global economy, or whether or not you're asking me to not be honest when I come to committee meetings, but I've always said that I'm completely transparent and honest, which is why I wanted to change the way that we monitored the budget so that we could see exactly where we were heading, so that everybody in the building knew what we needed to do I'm not sure that's fiction. If you walk through the office and speak to all the staff, they know where we're going and they've worked really, really incredibly hard to get there.
Thank you, councillor Porter.
Thank you. Councillor Shies, is there any capital spend east of North Walsham?
To go back in time and look at the 24-25 budget, which we set over 12 months ago, you can quite clearly see what we have in here. I mean, obviously, you will remember the significant investment that was made in Bacton and Walcott with the sandscaping. So, you know, historically, there has been investment in your particular ward, but we're actually looking at the 24-25 budget. You know what's coming in the 25-26 budget. If you have got ideas for the 26-27 budget, please come forward. I've been quite open with that. I'm not adverse to that. The 26-27 budget is the only one that's open for negotiation. We've not set it yet, but I've already begun the process with officers that will come to I think it's just before, hopefully just before Christmas, we'll have a better understanding of where the government is or isn't funding us. But obviously we don't set the budget for the next financial year until February next year. So if you've got ideas, please come forward.
Thank you. Yes, I'm aware that we had a lot of money was spent on saving us in 2019, quite a long time ago now. But what about other areas east of that more recently?
So again, this is a historic outturn report. This isn't a current picture. This isn't a future picture. Everything that we achieved in 24-25 is outlined in this report. I can't go back and change that as much as I could do. I think we'd go back to COVID times and we'd have made slightly different decisions as a nation then.
I'd like to finish with the councillor Hockley, so I'll go with councillor Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Chair.
No, sorry, councillor Hockley, I'm going
Sorry?
to have you next.
I think I'm skipping the queue, sorry. Do forgive me. Yeah, it's on the capital budget roll forward, stuff 5.9. There's a lot of narrative. Now, obviously, some of that is contractually committed, and some that where it's not contractually committed, things like housing, emergency housing, except that. But there are a lot of them. It says for managed to finish projects, but there's a lot where the narrative says there's no project works are contractually committed. Quite a few could have an assurance that actually those are being looked at to see whether they're still needed or whether some of those prices could be pushed down given the current economic climate. Thanks.
Sorry, is your question about reducing the cost of the project?
My question is where it's not contractually committed is give assurance that they will be actually examined to see if they're still needed or if they are, whether the contracts will be up or down on the figures that are actually shown. Thanks.
Okay. I think I understand where you're going. Everything here is what I'm putting forward to roll over. We've worked with officers to understand delivery times. Obviously, this has gone through cabinet and it's gone through overview and scrutiny committee. Where we can, obviously, you will see we made some savings in some of our projects. And if you know Officer Tanner's team and teams across the council, they will try and make savings where they can. So when we've put a figure in here, that's the maximum that we've gone for. And obviously, if we can come into that, that would be delightful to not just me, but everybody sitting in this chamber.
And councillor Holiday.
Thank you, Chair. Many thanks to the hardworking officers who've managed to convert a considerable deficit to an underspend of 622,000. I was wondering what the implications were for the next round of council tax setting, because 622,000 equates to £11 per council tax payer. So I was wondering if we were going to take that into account when we next set council tax. Thank you.
We take everything into account when we set the budget and the council tax. Everybody in this chamber is aware of that. What we can't take control of is the funding that the government chooses to put into local government. And as we've seen with obviously Councillor Frederick's portfolio area, where we have needs, where we have to meet them, like homelessness, we have to do what we have to do to get there. And where we've got obviously Councillor Ringer, where we're trying to roll food waste out across the district and the government don't understand how much that truly costs, we have to rise to meet that challenge every time. So we will always look at doing that in the best way. It's never our intention to sit there and go, we have to do this without any thought into it. Unfortunately, the government don't really understand how local government funding is spent, or the breadth of service that we do, or unfortunately how much it costs to deliver services in rural districts such as ours. So it is always a consideration.
Are there any more questions? If there aren't, we need a proposer and seconder. Proposed by Councillor Shires, seconded Councillor Adams. Go to the vote, vote please, and those in favour? I think that's unanimous. If you're all happy to soldier on, we've gone over the hour and a half. If you can manage to hang on, we'll have a break if you need one after we've got through the next 3 bits. Councillor Shires.
I'll keep it brief, I'm sure. So the next paper is the Treasury Management Outturn. Now this went to GRAC and we changed the Treasury Management always used to go through Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and to create less overlap, it now goes through GRAC. That's my understanding. Anyway, so I'm pleased to present the annual Treasury Management Outturn report for 24-25. And this is a comprehensive overview of our Treasury activity during this financial year. So obviously this is in line with statutory and SIPRA requirements. So the Council have produced the pre-year Treasury strategy in February 24, a mid-year review in 25, and most importantly, the final report summarising our actual performance against our strategy. So this has had rigorous oversight from our committee structure. So just to pull out some key figures, I appreciate that it is quite heavy reading. The actual capital expenditure was just over 25 million. And there was unfinanced borrowing in the year of 1.1. The capital financing requirement, the CFR, rose modestly from 17.4 to 18.3 million. And the gross borrowing totaled 7 million at year end, which is under our CFR, which shows prudent financial discipline. Importantly, levels remained well below our authorised limit. So we have talked a lot about debt as we've looked at some of the projects that we've got, and members will be aware that there was an in-year cash flow issue, which we've talked about multiple times. So we retained a 5 million long-term PWLB loan at just 5.3%, concluded in April 25, which provided cost certainty and shielded us from volatility in short-term rates. Members might remember me coming to committees and council with that, where we had to undertake borrowing, where we had been borrowing in the short term, but we had identified about 5 million continuous need. So there's additional short-term borrowing, which was temporary, used sparingly to manage cash flow, which you can see in the tables. At March 31st, the investment portfolio held just over 27 million, which yielded an average return of 5.08. And if you benchmark that against the overnight SONIA rate of 4.9, we came out pretty strongly there. The investment mix include in-house money market funds alongside diversified external managed funds, which is also tabled in the report. Investment income reached 1.3, which was slightly below the budgeted 1.8 million, which you will see reflected in the outturn report. Both of these run in tandem. And the reason it was lower was due to the anticipated balances to invest were slightly lower, and obviously we had reduced interest rates. I've talked a lot about the economic environment. And unfortunately, there was stubborn inflation and a peak in the bank rate of 5.25%. We maintained an underborrowed position using cash balances prudently while anticipating potential rate reductions. So all treasury activity complied with approved strategy and SIPFA codes. Borrowing was undertaken solely for capital needs with no breaches of authorised limits, and investment practice prioritised security, liquidity and yield within appropriate parameters. So in summary, we borrowed prudently, balancing long-term security with short-term flexibility. We led with strategic investment, delivering stable returns and outperforming benchmarks, and we had robust governance, ensuring full compliance with regulatory and policy framework. So I commend this report to members, and that is my proposal. So I'll invite the Chair of GRAC to add any further information.
Thank you, Councillor Shires. Councillor Betty-Gilfer.
Thank you very much. I actually wasn't at that meeting, so I'd like to pass over to the Vice Chairman of GRAC at that time. Thank you.
Councillor Boyle.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I was indeed chairing that meeting, and I can confirm we did discuss the Treasury Management Outturn report at some length, and we considered the item of the meeting. I think Councillor Shires has covered most of the things that we did question, and as acting chair or chair of GRAC for that meeting, I'm happy to recommend the Treasury Management Outturn position to the full council for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Have we any questions? I see none. Are you proposing, Councillor Boyle?
Happy to propose that.
And Councillor Shires seconding. All those in favour, please. So that appears unanimous.
Sorry, Mr.
Councillor
Chairman.
Shires.
So this is the debt recovery for the same financial year that we've discussed the outturn and the Treasury Management. It's an annual report detailing the Council's collection performance and debt management arrangements for the year 24-25. In this report, there is a summary of debts written off in each debt area, showing the reasons for write-offs, collection performance for council tax and non-domestic business rates, the level of arrears outstanding, and the level of provision for bad and doubtful debts. In terms of write-offs, our write-offs for 24-25 were 230,000, which is higher than the previous year by 13,000. Non-domestic business rate write-off was 90,000. That was higher than the previous year. The main reasons for write-offs in regards to council tax are where a debtor is absconded, bankruptcy, liquidation, or sadly where a debtor has deceased. For non-domestic business rates, it's where a debtor has gone into bankruptcy or liquidation, or a debtor has absconded. For collection performance, there we set a council tax target of 98.2, and this was achieved. We reached 98.37%. Our non-domestic business rates target was 99.2%, and we achieved that, and in fact reached 99.45%. Our council tax collection for 24-25 was the same as the previous year, and non-domestic business rates collection for the same year was higher than previous, and it appears to be the highest for 18 years and perhaps ever. So my thanks go out to the revenues team for all the work they've done. And in that, I just want to acknowledge that last October, we announced that the team was successful in being nationally recognised by the Institute of Revenues Rating and Valuation as the Revenues Team of the Year, plus highly commended for the Most Improved Team of the Year, and were finalists in the Public Finance Award for Collaboration and Innovation within Local Service, which was linked to our long-term empty homes work.
This has been followed up by the Empty Homes Network Award 2025, which has highly commended our teams for the best use of media, again linked to our long-term Empty Homes work. Officer Knight has been asked to write for the IRRB National Magazine Insight about our performance, and this was circulated in May 2025 and featured a double-page spread with a picture of Chroma Peer on the front page. So it's not all just about finance, it's about our beautiful, beautiful assets too. We do have outstanding arrears. So the total of all council tax arrears was 4.19 million as of the 31st of March 25, which is slightly lower than last year. And the total council tax in-year arrears was 1.56 million as of March, which is slightly higher than the previous years. In terms of non-domestic business rates, the total of all years business rates arrears was 253,000 as of March, and the total business rate in year arrears was 115,000 as of the same month. The only other part that I did want to add is that following the release of the national collection results the first week in July, we are joint 22nd with council tax collections and 13th with non-domestic business rates out of 298 councils across the country. This means we are within the top 8%, 7.4% of council tax, and the top 5%, which is 4.3% for non-domestic rates, whilst the top quartile is the top 25. But it is actually confirmed that this council are top of Norfolk again for both council tax and business rates collections for the second year. So I've congratulated our staff on everybody's behalf, and I would like to thank them for their continued hard work in not only what they've achieved so far, but in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. As we hear you. Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, Chair. We resolve to recommend that we approved it here. Thanks.
Yes, Councillor Toy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to add the thanks for Councillor Shires for her work and the team, obviously, that produced all this for us, but also that to know that this council, in achieving those high levels, actually do it in a positive and friendly way. We're not a council that goes out and attacks people to get this money. We engage, we use processes to help them enable to pay the bills, and that's all been in these reports that we've brought through. But I just wanted to highlight that we do work in a very proactive way to deliver these really outstanding results. So thank you to all officers for the work that they do for bringing us to where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Toy. If we have no other questions, we can go to a vote. Proposed by Councillor Shires, Councillor Fredericks, seconded. Those in favour, please. That looks to be unanimous again. And now we're coming to Councillor Fredericks, I think.
Thank you, Chair. I bring before you the Housing Benefit Debt Recovery Report. This is an annual report dealing with the Council's collection performance and debt management arrangements for 2024-25 in relation to housing benefit overpayment debt. The report provides the Council with the assurance that as the efficiency and effectiveness of its collection recovery policies and systems. Again, as Councillor Toy said, this is a very people-centred process. We work with people that are in debt because they probably have a lot more other debts that need to be paid for. So our benefits team will work with those residents, and also our financial inclusion team will work with those residents. In fact, they're so successful in helping our residents claim benefits that they haven't signed up for, that since their inception in 2023, they've actually put 5.6 million into the pockets of our residents that were in unclaimed benefits. So I would just like to thank the whole of People Services and the whole of the benefits team on this. So housing benefit is an income related benefit that's intended to help meet housing costs and for rented accommodation. As we've seen, rented accommodation is hideously expensive in North Norfolk. So what we would advise people to do if they are struggling, please contact our benefits team as soon as you possibly can so that we can help you tackle those debts and worries that you may become susceptible to eviction. So I will move that plan before you. Before I do, I'd just like to say that the benefits team have been shortlisted as a finalist for the IRRV Performance Awards Benefits Team of the Year. So we have outstanding staff at NNDC, and even if they're not up for award, I think we should congratulate every single one of them for keeping this boat afloat. So thank you to the staff of NNDC. Any questions? If I can answer them, I will. If not, I will take written. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Fredericks. Just go to councillor Holiday quickly again.
Whilst acknowledging the very personal and warm nature of our interaction with our residents, we did feel the report was a little bit dry and technical, and we felt it could be a little bit easier to understand. And we hoped that in the future the reports could be made written in a slightly more accessible format. Otherwise, the recommendation is as stands. Thank you. Would it just be
yes, Kez.
okay to say that it was discussed, but we didn't actually put it forward as a recommendation because it wasn't part two. The committee commented on the technical nature of the report and requested that the future reports are written in a more accessible format. We've only just received this evening, and actually I would have spoken to Councillor Holiday beforehand because actually it wasn't a resolution that we voted on. It was some people felt and some didn't. So I just wish to make it clear.
Fredericks.
Yeah, I was there at the meeting. It wasn't a recommendation. Perhaps if I ask Officer Denny if she could check the recording of that, if there was recommendations made after the meeting outside the committee, then we can certainly look at that again. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I wasn't implying there was a recommendation. I was just adding some colour to what is usually a very dry statement. And I thought might be of slight interest to you. So it wasn't a formal recommendation, but I don't think there's anything that precludes me from saying something that isn't a recommendation at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Holiday. Do we have any more questions before we go to the vote? Then I need a proposer to second it, please. Proposed, councillor Shires, seconded, councillor Hankin. And those in favour? There's unanimous again. Yes, I think we possibly need to go for a short break. So we will repair back here, if you can, at 8 o'clock, or shall we say, yes, better be 8 o'clock because it's bound to get to 5 past. 60 seconds and counting. How are we getting on, everybody? Can those who are not here raise their hands, please? We can. Oh, Officer Blatch is not here. Is he returning? Oh.
I'm going to.
I think we must start, otherwise we will not finish before closing time. Right, we're on to item 12, which is recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Holliday.
Well, we've covered the recommendations from the July meeting. There was also a June meeting that hasn't quite made it into the papers. And we did make any recommendations. We only resolved, but we did have quite an interesting thing that we resolved, which was to write to the government about Anglia Water not being involved in planning applications. And we got a letter back saying that didn't answer the question. That's not surprisingly. And we did get some more information from Anglia Water, so if anyone's interested, they should get in touch. Thank you.
Oh, yes, there may be a recommendation about the start time moving from 10 to 9:30.
Thought it was covered. Yes, there is a recommendation, but it doesn't seem to have been captured here either.
Right, so we will need to propose and second that, please.
All right, sorry. Yep, I'll propose it.
So proposing Councillor Holliday, seconding Councillor Boyle. Can you raise your hands if should you be in agreement with that, please? That's unanimous. So we're on to recommendation 13 from the Employment and Appeals Committee. And the recommendation should have read as the top of your page reads appointment of the Director for Resources and Section 151 officer. So the recommendation is as it is and Section 151 officer. Councillor Buttercup.
Thank you, Chair. So I think councillor are all aware that our 151 officer departed some time ago. And we held a recruitment panel on Friday following technical interviews on Thursday. It was a cross-party panel. And we resolved that we would like to appoint Don McCallum into the Director for Resources role, and he be the council's designated 151 officer. I'm very happy to take any questions, but I'm aware that most of the information is in the report that's been provided. And I'm aware of the late hour, so if anyone's got any questions, I'm very happy to take them.
Thank you, Councillor Buttercup. Councillor Shiers.
Yes, I would like to second the proposal, please. It was unanimous cross-party vote to appoint Don to this role. We had very he was questioned quite heavily. I think everybody would agree in this room, and should council wish to support, I very much look forward to working with Don in the months and years ahead.
Thank you, councillor Shires. Do we have any other questions? If not, we have a proposer and a seconder. Those in favour, please. Yep, that looks to be unanimous. And so we go on to recommendations from the Development Committee on the 29th of May, which is again to move the start from 10 to 9:30. Councillor Heinrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it was agreed unanimously by the committee, particularly on the basis that our committee meetings can be very long, and it is grossly unfair to members of the public to have to sit around for 2.5, 3 hours before they get a chance to have their say. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Heinrich. I propose. Oh, question. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to mention that the next meeting of the Development Committee is in fact tomorrow morning at 9:30. And given the length of the agenda, I heartily advise people to have a 3-course breakfast. I'm not saying it's a long one, but it's just to flag that up so that members of the Development Committee, which are 14 tomorrow morning, know that they are starting at 9:30, and it will be a long agenda.
Thank you, councillor Brown. Can I councillor Heinrich proposed and councillor McDonald seconded. Thank you. We go to the vote then. All those in favour of moving that time? Again, it looks unanimous to me. Right, we now move on to the Licensing Committee. We've had the gambling statement of principles. Who is speaking to that, please? It's councillor Spagnola.
Good evening, everyone. The Licensing Committee, Premises and Gambling, held on the 9th of July, would like to recommend to full council the publication of the Gambling Statement of Principles 2025, and I'm happy to propose that.
Do we have any questions? Councillor Ringer will second. If there's no questions, we'll go straight to the vote. Those in favour? And again, unanimous. And I'm back, I guess, to councillor Spagnola for the recommendation of the regulatory for the draft taxi and private hire policy handbook. Just before we go to that, I'd just like to say that I was on the committee that was looking at this back when we were on Zoom, and Darius Pierre was chairman. And that seems like a very long while ago. So it's taken a lot of hard work from the staff, and I'd like to commend the licensing department for getting this through. It's been very difficult. Councillor Spagnola.
You've kind of taken everything away from me there. Can I just recommend to adopt the taxi and private hire policy and handbook 2025 V5.1 to the full council with effect from the 1st of September, and I'm happy to propose that too.
Councillor Ringer, are you seconding? Thank you very much. There's no other question.
I was just going to echo what you've said, and I just wanted to acknowledge the role of the Norfolk Taxi Hire Association in the development of this taxi handbook. I've learned an awful lot from them, and I think that they've been a really useful contributor to this process, and I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much. With no further questions, we'll go straight to the vote. Those in favour, please. It again looks unanimous. Do we have any questions received from members? None. We'll go straight on to opposition business. Please, councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure members, we appreciate a nice piece of opposition business to ease us into our summer breaks. This motion focuses on the process that is being adopted by the North Norfolk District Councils and the 5 other district councils in Norfolk to define the submission for local government reform to the government this September. I emphasise this is not a debate about the merits of 1, 2 or 3. This is, and I've also want to point out that make it quite clear from the start that of those 6 councils, 2 of those are Conservative. I acknowledge that. That simply emphasised the point that local government reform cuts across party political boundaries in Norfolk, as indeed it does across most of the other counties that are looking at this process at the time. But our main concern is that this administration was predetermined from the outset that a 3 unitary option was best. The whole approach has been taken to justify this. There's been a lack of openness about the analysis being undertaken, as both opposition groups and I suspect most members have been excluded from this. Now, I'm not, as I said, advocating any particular option, and I'm actually open-minded. Interestingly, most of my group is still open-minded on the issue. However, I would make a comparison with the approach taken by the County Council. They didn't express a preference back in February. They have analysed all 3 options, and they have produced a draft report comparing all 3, which is crammed full of metrics. In summary, it's an evidence-led process and a more open and inclusive process. Now, we are trying to be constructive in this debate, and we've made 4 recommendations, and I'll take those 4 recommendations in turn. Though the government has stated that there are 6 criteria to be assessed, one stands above all others, and that has to be any new unitary must be financially sustainable. To that end, any proposal that is presented to us in September, we believe should include the following: the transition and disaggregation costs to set up the unitaries, splitting up the county council services like adult social care and children's services will cost a huge sum of money. We need to understand that before we even worry about how those services could effectively function afterwards. We need to understand the impact on council tax and business rates and whether these will need to increase. Similar impacts on capital costs, and with risk scores covering the viability and quality scores for the range of services provided. Now, I say this because I've attended 2 briefings on the 3 unitary option, and I haven't heard anything about financial metrics on either of them. Our second recommendation is that we need to understand how any unitary structure will work, whether it's 1, 2 or 3. Whatever option we look at, there's going to be a significant reduction in councillors in Norfolk. Currently, there are 401 county and district councillors, so occupied by about 355 different people, and you take into account the twin hatters. That number is likely to be halved when we get to 1, 2 or 3 unitary options. So we need to understand how that would work in the new world. The third recommendation is looking at the required to really get cross-party cooperation between councillors in reviewing the research and preparation. The County Council set up working groups for both devolution and LGR, which has included members of the opposition there, and they have access to all the background data. And I did ask Councillor Adams if we could set up a similar one for LGR, and I was told no, because that would be a distraction to officers. Now, I'm surprised at that, because I thought you'd want to met all members of all groups and trying to bring you with you, particularly those who might ask some more probing questions. And the fourth concern we have is around the proposal period that we have, or the assessment period that we're going to have in September. I believe that the report will be published on around about the 7th of September, and we're going to have an extraordinary council on the 17th of September. So that gives us just over a week to look and analyse those facts. And I think it'd be helpful if we had a longer period of time in order to do that. We are trying to be constructive here, but I think our decision needs to be based on the evidence and the viability of each option, not simply what our hearts desire. We must take the decision based on what we believe is best for our residents and businesses in terms of ensuring that the local government services they expect can still be delivered, and at a cost that this does not increase unnecessarily. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cushing. Councillor Dixon, do you wish to second, or are you keeping your powder dry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I will second the motion, but I'll reserve my right to speak after the debate, please.
Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I know this opposition business reflects the fact that the Conservative group haven't been able to come to a consensus on the preferred model of local government reorganisation in Norfolk. And I understand that. It's not unique, certainly to the Conservative group here, but across the political spectrum that exists elsewhere. But I would urge the Conservative group to make the most out of the opportunities that have and will be given to them. I will remind members that we've already discussed our principles in respect of these matters in March. And I was the one to propose the suspension of standing orders to enable members to engage as extensively as they wish. But unfortunately, I don't feel that opportunity was taken as fully as it could be, with abstentions across even what I felt were non-contentious and granular items of consideration, where within the debate, we seem to have agreement. So my first challenge to Councillor Cushing here is that he gives us a commitment that he will allow the members of his group a free vote on this decision in September. Forget tonight. We give our members the opportunity for a free vote on every occasion and seek to come to consensus on every matter that we can, but we don't look back where we cannot. And you're all eminently capable of drawing your own conclusions. You owe it to the representatives, to the residents you represent, to do that. So, Councillor Cushing, please make that first response in your summing up later on. Give your members a free vote where it counts in September. My own position has already been raised this evening in respect of the methodology of local government reorganisation, in that I don't support it, and that was reflected, of course, in March. Recognise the benefits again to the underbounded Norwich in terms of decision making and spend in what is currently a stifled city, but we don't see the same opportunity for the rest of the county, including North Norfolk. However, this is happening whether we want it to or not, and the choice you all should make is whether your small towns and villages are best served by one large behemoth council, which could be among the largest in the country, far above the government's envisaged population for unitaries, or smaller unitaries that have a greater chance of understanding the communities, the distinct geographies, the economies, and provide visible local representation, keeping local government local. Whether we like it or not, this is the process that's been given to us by the government in terms of submitting models in September. All authorities in this process are carrying out similar actions in response, in terms of engaged consultants to examine data and develop models. And this is not going to change now because individually we might want it to. But we must accept this will take time and it cannot be rushed. You said in the supporting words that consultants are creating data, but all the authorities are working, in fact, from the same data and signed an agreement in respect of this. And, you know, of course, same tax base and financial position of the councils now and moving forward into the medium-term financial plan positions are known. But we are looking here at the enormous breadth and entirety of local government services in Norfolk and proposing models and geographies that meet the desired outcomes over what we want local government to look like. And you'll surely have a fair idea of how local government services should and can be best provided already, and the role you play in promoting your community to the authority where you're elected, and in other respects across the public services interface, or you wouldn't be here. So your decision in September should ultimately reflect that. In terms of the points of your motion, in terms of weighing up, first of all, the proposals against each other, this just won't be logically possible at this stage. Our proposals are distinctive in geography and service provision and level of innovation and areas of focus, if you think of, say, Norwich versus the East or West. And you must all accept these are three different answers or outcomes, if you like, to the same question. The government will ultimately pick following what I hope is a credible a credible public consultation, as I'm also concerned where everyone's voice is here. I'm not sure what the second point meant, the second ask of the proposal, but we have carried out consultation and engagement with our parishes, more so in fact than the rival camps, and we're doing a further 2 sessions after the submission. They've all been very well received and good feedback received. It is the position of the 6 councils that we recognise the value of parishes and other neighbourhood governance and the need to provide visible and accountable leadership and engagement with all stakeholders beyond just parishes. And work is ongoing with a number of councils across all proposals. I've already informed Christopher, as he said, that we won't be setting up a working group on this, and there are several reasons. We are at capacity. I don't have the staff resources to throw at this and make it in any way useful or effective, sadly. And I'm certainly not going to think about increasing the headcount to do so. I sadly don't have the time to commit to it either, which I think would be necessary, as this is, of course, taking up a significant amount of time whilst everything else is still there. Feedback from others has indicated working groups have been of limited value and add very little. And frankly, we know the working group would get lost in the detail. Can I have a minute left? Well, what I would remind you is in March we did extend this to allow the opposition to speak. So I'll try and be quick. This proposal that we've been backing has the involvement of the majority of councils, the majority of councillors, and it is cross-party, unlike the other 2 proposals. And there's a strength in unity in that we're discussing those different perspectives, thrashing them out and coming to a conclusion. In terms of those working groups, we're talking about 2 months away. That working group will not manage to make effective progress in that time. But where I can confirm something is that there will be another briefing in September. And that, of course, is not the first. We've tried to keep members very well appraised, but it's ultimately up to you to align your diaries to fit the understanding in of the emerging proposal in. It is going to be a big read for you, I'm afraid. So I'm not going to be supporting the proposal. I welcome a debate this evening, but members need to be patient. This is detail that will come out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. I would remind you, only got 5 minutes each to speak and half an hour in total, and we started at 2014, I believe. So if you can be as quick as you can. Have we got any questions, please? Councillor Holiday will have first this time.
Thank you very much. You say we should make a decision based on what would be the best model for our communities in terms of democratic representation and unique needs. I agree, but what's the best model for the critical statutory services such as children's services or social care? I mean, what will be viable or financially sustainable? I would expect there to be a scientific underpinning to any decision to go to whatever size of unitary. But what we seem to be deciding on is on purely subjective terms, and I'm wondering, why isn't this decision data driven? Thank you.
Councillor Adams, I'm coming back to you.
I wasn't aware this was a question and answer session, so that would have been better placed elsewhere in the agenda. But all of the proposals, I hope, I can't speak for the 1 and the 2 are doing their thematic deep dives into those service areas, and clearly no one's got the intention of damaging the provision of services. So in terms of some of the claims that have been made, I think some of them fairly outrageous. I don't think that's the position of either ourselves or, perhaps I'm speaking not out of turn in saying that the people that are proposing the 2 model as well, the 2 unitary model, I don't think that's anyone's what anyone envisages. But yeah, in terms of the proposals that come on how those services are run and administered and governed, That will be a feature of not just the three, but the two and the one as well.
Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, thank you. And these aren't questions because I think it's a debate, so I'm quite happy not to have the points answered. But I think what the motion is saying is there's serious concerns about the way this council is handling things. And one of the reasons is there is not the figures, there's not the narrative, the financial narrative to back up what's being proposed. And the jury's still open 1, 2 or 3, I think. And no one's certainly put any pressure on me to vote for one thing or another in either of the councils that I'm on. But it's really important. 2/3 of the county council's budget, the current county council's budget, is on services, adult social care and children's services. If we want to do the best for our community, we need actually the figures to back up why we're doing things, why we're coming to decisions, and that's missing, and that's what this motion is about. We can't, Norfolk has an increasingly aging population, and we cannot ignore figures like the amount of money that is spent in adult social care, but also in children's service as well, particularly in the rural parts of this community. And that's what this motion is saying. It's not being done properly. It's not what's the best way. It's the way it's being done. Thank you.
Councillor Vickers.
Thank you, Chairman. So the committees that I've served on in this council, I've found that members have worked well and constructively together across party lines. So I think it is disappointing that the idea of a cross-party working group was turned down. I think it would have aided transparency and would have allowed more in-depth investigation into some of the issues that Councillor Cushing has raised. Not least the issue of the actual role in any of these models of town and parish councils. I feel that I don't know enough about that, and I don't think that the actual role that they will play in any model has been explored. And I'd like to see that considered further, and I hope that we'll have more information on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toy, and then Councillor Buttercofer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to say that this has been several times it's been said it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, which we don't necessarily agree it's an opportunity that we wanted, but we've got to work to do the best result that we can. We've seen this evening how long it took to do a taxi licensing. We've seen how long it takes to do a local plan. If we were to put this into committee in the timescales given to us by government, and it's the government that are driving these timescales, not us, we wouldn't get there. We need to be agile. We know that we've got consultants that are getting the data for us. We know that there are officer working groups going on and getting the data for us. We will have an opportunity to select that data and read it and understand it. And I think we need to understand that the financial pressures of the council, that we don't have the staff. I mean, our staff are incredibly stressed, despite the results that we've seen they give us. Whilst we would all love to go into that space, it's not a reality given the timescales laid out by this government and the requirement to do it and to make this decision. Therefore, we have to be slimmer and agile and trusting people to get on with this, and then report back to us and come into the groups where we're doing with the briefings and the updates and information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Toy. Councillor Buttercofer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like several people in this room, I'm not happy about where we are, in as much as I don't agree with LGR for our area. However, we are where we are, and if we don't engage with this process fully, it will be done to us. I think we all know that. There are other areas around the country that have already had to go through this process and have managed to find solutions to the problems of children's services and adult social care. And I think everyone in this room would recognise that they are very important areas to be covered and well managed. Unfortunately, I don't share the opinion that they are being well managed by the county council at the current time, but that is not tonight's debate. So I think we need to look at other geographies to inform ourselves about the options that are available. I agree that we need to be data driven, but I am convinced from everything I have heard in debriefs and from the leader that the data is being collected and is being shared across all the districts so that everyone has a transparent picture of that information so that we can have informed positions, because it is important that we have that data and can make those informed decisions. I just think we need to wait for these reports to come out. I'd love to have more information right now, just as a backbencher of this party. But there isn't the time and the officer availability to give us that information. And I think we have to work with the officers and support them in the work they're doing and the work that is being done by our consultants to get the best results for our residents. I share the concern about the number of councillors and the democratic deficit and what's going to happen there. I absolutely understand that. I do think some of the scaremongering about the results are not particularly helpful coming out of other authorities. So let's hope that once we get to September, we will all have the information we want and be able to analyse it so that we can come to an informed position.
Thank you, Councillor Petticoat. Councillor Withington.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo two of the comments made by Councillor Toy and Councillor Butikofer. Firstly, Councillor Toy, you said that this, we're all probably in agreement that this is not where we want to be, that we have to make the most of it, and there is an opportunity to do things differently here, and we need to make sure that doing different is doing good for North Norfolk. So I think in terms of, just assuming that the best place for social services and adult social care and children's services, SEND, etc., is in that one place is not necessarily right. And I would echo Councillor Butikofer's views about, the system is actually broken at the moment, so should we just be regenerating that? But I think the biggest thing that I am pleased about with this process is the fact that we have the majority of district councils across this area who are working together collaboratively and are using their best officers with their best expertise. Those officers with the best area of expertise are being used to delve into that information, to take it apart and to really evaluate it. And so it is evidence-led. And I think that is the biggest strength of this. They always say two brains are greater than one, aren't they? So I think to have that approach rather than a singular looking at the whole district, have it as an additional going on is actually really beneficial, and I think gives us the best opportunity to see what is potentially best for North Norfolk. And I'm confident that the officers across all the districts who are doing that work are doing it at a very high level and are producing something that is going to be worth the wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Withington. Councillor Frederickson, I think we're drawing to a point where we'll need Councillor Dixon to second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to point out that the leader updates the leaders of the opposition's groups regularly on LGR, and thankfully he updates us because we have group meetings. So perhaps that's a form of the opposition members getting to know what's happening. Perhaps that's something that the leaders could consider. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We might have time for one more question before we go to Councillor Dixon, if there are any. If not, Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we'll kind of start at the beginning, really. Why does this really matter? Why are we having this debate? I think we need to understand the significance of this. This is about the biggest and most significant decision that this council is likely to make, certainly during my time on the council anyway. And it's important that we get this right. It absolutely is important. It cannot be overemphasized. So there are some really basic rules, aren't there, that we have to follow if we are to come up with a credible conclusion. Our first is to be open-minded and to be inclusive. And if you believe that we are open-minded in our approach, then you have some different definition from that which I'm familiar with. And for those who think it's a laughing matter on the front rank, I'm not sure that I would share that view, but maybe it's not that.
Dixon.
Mr. Chairman, if you want to take
Thank
the
you.
objection.
Point
on
of order. There's no one laughing at this matter. Thank you.
That will be really helpful to have that clarification. Thank you. So it is important that we are open-minded and that we are inclusive. Undoubtedly, it has to be evidence-led, and it needs to cover all the reasonable models and the boundary options associated with those. And it needs to be based on the best interests of the residents and the businesses of Norfolk and North Norfolk. So whether we like it or not, we all have to set aside our party, personal and other concerns. They must take second and third and place. We have to place the county and our district in the first range of our considerations. Now, the process this council that I'm aware of hasn't been open-minded, and I know that the leader and the deputy leader are quite open, that they made their position statement very clear back in March, and they've repeated it since then, declaring that you know what you don't want. I'm not sure how you can reach that conclusion as a start point, because you have to have that open mind to look at all options. And if you're not, then the process is prejudiced from day one. From that point onwards, it's clear that this administration is predetermined and is not open-minded. Nor has the process been inclusive. There's been no cross-party participation or work group from which the process, evidence and data gathering and evaluation could be openly shared. Early on, offers were made to use the resources in the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for that purpose, but that wasn't suitable either. That wasn't accepted. But just to pick up on a couple of points that have been raised in the course of the debate, and the leader expressed some, I think, confusion over the second recommendation. And that really I'm a bit surprised about, because I would have thought that that probably encapsulates much of your own concern that you've stated about local decision-making, how the connections will be made between however many number of unitaries there are and the town and parish councils and the community groups that we need to connect with. So that's really ought to be very much in your uppermost in your mind. But so if that's any clarification, if that helps you at all, then that's what that recommendation is about. There's a lot of work to do there for those who promote all three models, actually. There's a lot of work to do there to fill in what that looks like, how that would work, what that gap might look like. So I hope that clarifies that. I'm a bit surprised in a way that all the data that's been created, I would expect that to be shared across all 8 councils. And I know that the county council is making available, has made available all the data sets and the evidence that it has used up to now. I
will just say that members do need to deliver factually correct information when they're speaking to this meeting, and all of the councils involved in promoting proposal has signed an agreement. They will share data with each other, so they're all working the same data. So the allegation that the county council is sharing data but no one else is factually incorrect. Thank you.
We need to push on.
I think we do, Mr. Chairman. I think it would be useful if we could just conclude what I have to say. The workload that's spoken about, yes, there is a considerable workload. Of course there is. But there's six councils involved in this group that this council has aligned itself with. So the sharing of that workload is surely something that could be done quite reasonably easily. But I'm not sure that there's anything that suggests that that actually is happening, but it ought to be happening. And that would then relieve the workload, the resource workload for this council. So they are the points that I would wish to add into the debate. But just to conclude, Mr. Chairman, without an open, objective and evidence-based appraisal process of all 3 models, any recommendation that this council makes would lack any credibility. But it's not too late to change the process. It's not too late to make a change. I probably won't change your minds at this point, but I do believe there is huge merit in changing the process. So, Mr. Chairman, I commend the motion to members, and I hope that they will be minded to recognise the merit in it and support it accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Cushing, to sum up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be brief because I appreciate it is late. I would reiterate the point that Councillor Dixon said. I mean, this is the most important decision that this council and any others have had to make. What is decided this year as part of this is a structure that could last as long as the present one as it lasted, which is 50 years. As any member of my group present will quite clearly confirm, I have never pressurised any member of my group to vote one way or the other, and I certainly won't come September. But when they put their hands in the air, I hope that to vote for anything, it should be based on the evidence that they have presented before them. At the moment, we're in a position whereby we're being told that the answer is 3, but when we say why is the answer 3, well, we'll come back and tell you in September. Other than that, smaller is better. And I just don't think that is where we need to be. Now, if you want to bring members of the Conservative group with you on this vote, then my plea to you is, well, get included in that process. And that's what this motion is all about. Not just the Conservative group, I'd also add the Independent group as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will go to the vote. Obviously, we've got a proposer and seconder. Those who are for the motion, please raise your hand. Those against? Any abstentions? There are no abstentions. The motion falls. I don't believe we have any notices of motion. No need to exclude the press and public. No private business. The next meeting you'll be excited to know is on the 17th of September, which is an extraordinary meeting. You can have August off, and then you can come back the following week on the 24th for full council, Those of you who are on planning, I'll see you at 9:30 in the morning. Thank you for attending.